Welcome to the Orange Flag Podcast. I'm Aries.
I'm Austin.
I'm Nicole, and I was at the Formula One race this past weekend at COTA, the US Grand Prix, and as we do when we go to races, I'm just gonna do a little off-track action race review, starting with I got Nico Hulkenberg to sign my poster. He was definitely, I'll say, surprised by it, right? Because I went up to him and I said, Nico, I have this poster of, all four of Nick Tandy's 24-hour wins, and, can you sign on your car? And he just sat there looking at it, and, literally, he had the Sharpie in his hand, and he was, going to everybody's signature, and I don't know if he was, so when I got Nick to sign it, he was
Nick.
well, there's Earl, and there's, there's Larry, and there's who, he went through, and it felt like Nico was doing the same thing, was just, going through all the signatures, and then I told him, you're the second to last one, and he's not a super talkative guy, but, he seemed impressed by it, right? It's a cool thing to have happen. So that's been my goal since Nick did the thing in January, was to get this poster signed. So now I just gotta find Patrick Pile. Patrick, I really, really need to find you so you can sign this Nick Tandy poster.
I will
Please
say, though, if you ask Nick Tandy, he thought Patrick had already signed it, because he kept thinking Lisa's signature was Patrick's.
He was absolutely convinced that either, I don't know whether it was Fred McVicky or Richard Leitz, but he thought one of the two of them was Patrick, and I'm like, I haven't met Patrick yet.
No, because I swear,
really need
we
to
told
find
him that, Leitz's signature was Leitz, and then he went to another one, so maybe it was Fred's, and then he was like, Patrick.
It was,
again.
No, it was both of the ones on that car that Patrick drove with him. So he thought one of these two, either McVicky or Leitz, was Patrick, and it wasn't Patrick.
But he was fully convinced that he was Patrick.
Fully convinced Patrick had signed it. Patrick has not signed it, so Patrick, I really need you to sign this Tandy poster.
You need to send him a little gif of the famous scene. Liam Neeson on the phone going, "I will find you."
Right. So Fernando Alonso is not always the most, I guess, fan-friendly for autograph seekers, right? If you're trying to get something signed that he thinks you're gonna sell, he is not a big fan of signing stuff. And one of my friends had this year's car and wanted to get it signed, and I was like, okay, I'll help you out, I'll get it signed, because I got a picture with him. And I actually feel bad about this, because I just went up and I was like, Fernando, can you sign this car? And he said to me, I will sign this for you because I know you're my fan. And I'm like, ooh, I feel bad about that now, because, I was getting it signed for my friend who bought this car and was just, worried Fernando was going to say no. And I'm like, hey, I already got it, I'll go get it signed. But, that was crazy, because I literally said last week, F1 drivers never remember people. And, Fernando very clearly remembered who I was to say something like that to me. I've been meeting Fernando at races since, the beginning of his career, so it's not it's still crazy, though, because they have so many races in a season. They probably meet so many people, and I go to one race a year. Yes, I've been going to races since the early 2000s, but it's one race a year. So for Fernando to say that just really impressed me. And then I think a lot of people have seen the Max Verstappen, Kevin Estre shirt thing. I went up to Max and I was like, Max, so Kevin Estre misprinted his shirt. It says Formula One World Champion. I want to send this to him. Can we take a picture with the shirt? Max bursts out laughing. If you've seen the picture, it looks like he's literally trying to contain laughter.
Yeah.
Max starts cracking up and, like, looks at the shirt, starts cracking up again. Like, for people that think Max Verstappen doesn't have a personality, I wish that, like, my dad or one of our friends had been recording this, because Max was hilarious. And, like, just contained himself enough for me to hold the shirt up and us to take the picture. And then as he was walking away, I was like, so Max, are we going to see you and Kevin in the Grello this year? And turns around, grins at me and says, no. Just like that. Like a jokey voice. So it could be a yes, it could be a no. You're just, no. It was like, these are the interactions that are why I sometimes have differing opinions on drivers than what their, like, public perception is, because this is not who I think people expect Max Verstappen to be. He does not come across as someone who would be joking with a fan. He comes across as someone who you'd expect to be, like, very focused and cold and, like, maybe I'll sign something. But, like, Max has always been a little bit funny when I've met him, you know, at races. Lewis Hamilton also really surprised me. So, like, a lot of the times, you know, even though you're just not really doing anything, no, like, there's 2 or 3 people around, you know, trying to meet Lewis, his security will come in and clear everybody out. Well, on the day that I met him this weekend, his security didn't come in, but, like, track security was just kind of trying to push everybody back, all 3 of us, back. And I was like, Lewis, can I get a selfie? And he literally waved me past security to get a selfie with him, which Lewis is definitely one that, like, in a very small group situation, he is great. Like, 3, 5, 10, 15 people, he's great. He does not like crowds. That's why he has his security clear people out. And that's, you know, definitely was really cool to have him pull me through the track security, which track security was just, like, basically there to make sure no one hurts the drivers as they're walking in, essentially. And just for him to do that, like, is something that I think 2 or 3 years ago he might not have done. And I do think, like, Ferrari has a certain way they expect their drivers to act. And I do think this was part of it, right? Like, Ferrari does not want their drivers being perceived as anything other than the consummate professional. And the consummate professional will, you know, even if they maybe don't want to, if one fan is asking for a picture, they'll stop. They're not going to stop and sign for, you know, 1,000 people. They're not going to do what Sebastian Vettel did several years ago when there were about 50 of us, and he said, okay, guys, get in line. I will stay here as long as it takes to sign or take a picture with everybody. I've got nowhere to be. And literally had everybody line up, and he just went through, signed, you know, as much as people had. If people had 3 cars they wanted him to sign, he signed 3 cars. I don't ever expect a driver to do that. That is above and beyond. I do expect that if one fan is like, hey, can I get a selfie? And everybody else has, you know, at some point across the 3 days, I understand sometimes they're late for something. You know, of the 4 days I was there, Lewis stopped once. But he stopped once, right?
Yeah.
So, and, you know, I'll say Lando Norris stopped twice. But he also physically pushed someone out of the way, which Lewis has done in the past. You know, when Lewis was with Mercedes, he actually physically, like, bodied his way through people because he had somewhere to be. And that's why, you know, if you ever see me or talking to me about stuff, I don't base any opinion on a driver on one interaction. It's always at the very least across the whole weekend, because I know sometimes people are busy. That's why it was so surprising to me what Lewis did, because he's never, I won't say he's never been like that, because his rookie year, he was amazing. His rookie year, he was like looking for people to interact with
I was going to say, in like past things you've told us about your interactions with Lewis, it's been more of like the interactions like what you were saying of him not really stopping and stuff like that, except for like his first year. Like what we've talked about with you about how Lewis has been in the past has been the more standoffish guy. And I do think, like you said, it is kind of the switch for Ferrari, because even with like social media content and stuff, you're seeing Lewis do more than he did with like Mercedes in the past.
And I wonder how much of it is that German, Austrian, Mercedes Toto Wolff mentality of perfection, in a way of like Ferrari wants perfection, but they want a polished image of professionalism. Toto Wolff wants robots. Genuinely. Which
it makes sense.
To that point, Kimi Antonelli, oh my gosh, that kid is hilarious, and I hope he stays hilarious. He was out there like, there were a couple younger girls like closer to his age, and some younger guys close. He's throwing his arms around them, like just being a 19-year-old kid with other 19-year-old kids. It was so refreshing, and that's why, like, if you saw me talking with people about Ollie Behrman, that is why it was so disappointing the way he was acting, because he comes across as somebody who acts like the way Antonelli was. And Hadjar was like that too. Isaac Hadjar was being so, like, wanted to take as many pictures as possible, was like going up to people and like trying to get them to interact with him, and so was Kimi. And for Ollie to have like tried to sneak in and try to avoid interacting with people in a place where, like, there are literally, like, the Drive to Survive crew is there. The team's photographers are there for the purpose of getting fan interactions with the drivers. That's why, and like, I didn't want to get too into it in a Twitter debate, but that's why it is kind of expected there, right? Like, where I was is a place where the media expects to see fan interactions with drivers. They actually post up specifically there at this part of the paddock to see fan interactions with drivers. So for a driver to completely blank fans is very disappointing. Especially when their media crew is there. And that was the time that I said Lando disappointed me. His media crew was with him and followed him in as he went like this. And, which, I guess if you're not watching, he literally put his head down and his hand up and walked right through a crowd of people who were like, Lando, can I get a picture? Lando, can you sign this? And his media crew was there, so it didn't make sense that he was doing that. Max's media crew was there when I got the picture with the Kevin shirt, so I really hope that doesn't end up on Drive to Survive. Kevin, I am incredibly sorry in advance if the misprinted t-shirt ends up on Drive to Survive. That would be hilarious. I managed to avoid being on full access when I was in the PPM garage, but I managed to get the Kevin shirt on Drive to Survive. That would be so good.
It would be iconic. Like, honestly, that would be so good.
Yeah, it would. I think it would be very ironic also. Like, you were like, I hope I didn't get in full access. Boom, Drive to Survive.
I was so scared about being in full access. Like, so scared. Obviously, I made it onto the actual broadcast. So, yeah. There's that. But, yeah, and then, I guess a little bit about the driving. I know everybody thinks Stefano Domenicali is insane for saying every weekend needs a sprint race, but if all the sprint races are going to be as crazy as the sprint race we had this weekend, and all the actual full-length Grand Prix are going to be as boring as the Grand Prix we had this weekend, maybe we do need a sprint race at every Grand Prix weekend, because it's the first time I've ever left early from a race in the whatever it is 23 years I've been going to races. Because as soon as Lando overtook Charles, there was, aside from a freak engine failure or something, there was nothing going to happen in that race, and it saved us 2 hours of travel time getting out of the parking lot. So, yeah, we left with like 3 laps to go. Or whatever, like the lap, or we made sure that Lando's overtake stuck. And, like, we saw them come around one more time, and then we beat feet, because that race was just, I was watching the Patriots game on my phone during the race. I was like, guys, tell me drivers you want me to take pictures of so that I have something to do, because like, at turn 1, there were a lot of, like, half passes, right? Like, someone would look like coming out of turn 1, they made a pass, and then through the S's, they lost the spot again. So it's like, you saw the same pass happen 15 times, and it never happened. So, like, I mean, I guess that was fun to take pictures of, but it wasn't great racing, which usually COTA is, like, the race of the year. It's either COTA or Interlagos that is the race of the year, and Aries, you better make sure that y'all have a good race.
I'm already braced for a disappointment. We'll see that in 3 weeks.
Yeah, hopefully it's good.
I will say, like,
Yeah, I
even
hope
watching
so.
from home, it was boring. I had, like, split screen because NASCAR was on at the same time as F1, and then the Dolphins game was on at the same time. I will say I turned the Dolphins game off very quickly, and then, like, F1 I was, like, half paying attention to because the NASCAR race was much more exciting than the F1 race.
I'm curious what the peak numbers versus the average numbers, and I hate TV viewership numbers. We've talked about that before on this show, but I'm curious what the difference between the peak numbers for F1, so like the people that tuned in for the start of the race, and the average numbers, because I think a lot of people, once Max had that, 5-second lead that was clearly insurmountable, maybe up until Leclerc's pit stop, like, then people just tuned out, because I certainly was not paying attention to the race. I was on the internet. I was on Twitter. I was on Instagram. Like, I was not paying attention to the race that was in front of me.
The only thing that stopped me from actually switching over from F1 to NASCAR is the fact that we technically still don't have a local broadcast, which pisses me off.
Yeah.
Need to work on that.
Portugal is not a substitute, so they better get on that for next year. But I will say, like, I put my phone away on lap 36 because I had to charge it. I did a bit of a Ferrari strategy with my phone battery, and it didn't work. I left it. I left it on the kitchen for like 10 laps. Came back on lap 46. Picked it up and saw that was around the time when Lando passed Charles again.
Yeah.
Then I was like, you know what? I didn't even catch the finish either. I was like, I know how this is going to end. So, yeah.
Yeah, like, I had the sound on because I had the split screen for the races, so I had the sound on for NASCAR because I was like, this race is just so boring. I'm gonna listen to the NASCAR race because at least there's stuff to actually hear about.
It's amazing that a 90-minute race managed to be less exciting than a 10-hour race that we watched the week before. Like, I genuinely feel like more happened in Petit Le Mans than happened in the F1 US Grand Prix. And
easily,
like, by far. And you would think, if the whole point of why F1 wants to do more sprint weekends and all that is people don't have a good attention span, like, we obviously have fantastic attention spans. We all watch 24-hour races. I watched the stupid stream for the dumb 24 Hours of Zolder to watch Kevin drive a Porsche Cup car. Like, I have a fantastic attention span for watching racing when it's interesting. this was not interesting racing. And that's the
No.
problem. Like, Formula One needs to do something to make racing more competitive. As even if you took the multi-class aspect out of Petite, think about how many lead changes there were among any class.
Yeah.
Like, and then F1 doesn't have lead changes. Like, there is not enough parity between the cars to encourage good racing. And it's just incredibly frustrating to me. And
Yeah.
even my dad, who, like, I really do think that going to the WEC race, like, changed his outlook on sex. I told him, I'm like, don't worry, we're not gonna sit in the seats for 6 hours.
We did.
Like, and we sat in the seat,
We
but
did.
think about how many times we, like, stood up out of our seats in excitement for stuff that happened. You know?
Yeah. I'm just
Like,
saying, we did in
regardless.
fact stay in the same spot.
We did. Well, we
Well,
moved at the very end.
We
We moved
to
at the very end so we could see Kevin cross the line
Yeah.
and see the podium better.
I was like, actually, I take that back. We did move, but not far.
But we stayed in the same grandstand
the
whole time. Like, I told my dad we could go up, we'd be in the main grandstand, we'd go up to turn 1, we'd go over to turn 15, we'd, bounce around the track. And we did none of that. We stayed in the main grandstand the whole time. And it was still, in theory, the least exciting part of the track, right? Is the pit straight. Like, other than for watching pit stops, not a ton of action happens there. Passing happens elsewhere, like up at turn 1. Like, Kevin's pass was up at turn 1. Kevin's not pass was at turn 20. Which was fantastic because we saw both of them. We looked to the left, we saw Kevin's definitely not an attempt at a pass. We looked to the right, we saw Kevin's definitely a pass. That move was better than anything that happened in the whole Formula One race. Like,
Agreed.
Kevin's turn 1 pass in the WEC race was better than anything that happened in the F1 race. And that's not, like, anti-F1 bias. That is, the F1 race was boring. I was there and it was boring. And I get it, like, if you're somebody that always is going to watch F1 no matter what, like, you watched all of the laps of the 6-car race in 2005. I was there, so I watched all of those laps, That was about on par with this for boringness. And it's so much of a letdown because COTA has been such a good race in the past. It should have been a good battle, like, the Red Bull's getting stronger and McLaren still have the fastest car, but the problem is that crash in the sprint race absolutely neutered Oscar and Lando's cars. I think this had the potential to be a fantastic 5-car battle.
Yeah.
Lewis, Charles, Oscar, Lando, and Max. And it ended up not being because the McLarens got damaged in that. Like, Oscar went flying.
Yes.
Lando took a ton of damage. So those cars, like, there's only so much you can do, and then they qualified reasonably well, so you're not gonna break parc fermé to continue fixing them, you're just gonna deal with what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So that was possibly part of it. I am not a fan of parc fermé. I think I've said this before. I want F1 to get back to the absolute engineering contest it was in the late 90s and early 2000s, where they were building a car for qualifying that could do 3 laps. That they were building a engine that could, if the race is 56 laps, it can do 56 and a half laps. If the whole point is that these are the best cars in the world technologically, make them the best cars in the world technologically. Make it an absolute engineering contest. And have a cost cap, but make it an absolute, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't exceed the cost cap, because that's not how it is right now. They have actual standards for what they're allowed to do. They have spec parts. They have regulations. You're never going to see the Viking horns on the McLaren. You're never going to see the walrus tusks on the Williams. You're never going to see those crazy cars because the regulations don't allow it. And that was absolute peak engineering. teams were trying crazy things to see if it worked, and sometimes it did. Right now, it's like a halfway neutered spec series. If I want a spec series, I have spec series. IndyCar's a fantastic spec series. I don't need F1 being a half-attempted IndyCar. I want F1 to be what it is, which should be absolute cutting-edge engineering in motorsport.
I guess that's a good point. Just one request though, never let them bring back the X-Wings, because they looked hideous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can stand by that.
I guess my takeaway from this weekend is, and I guess it's what everybody's been going on about online, is if somehow McLaren continues where they are and Max continues to flash away at their advantage until he eventually comes out on top, I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna put him in an otherworldly position, or if it's gonna make McLaren
Absolutely
look pretty
will.
bad.
So,
Both.
PPM, cover your ears right now.
Oh dear.
Okay, their ears are covered. I said in the WEC chat this morning, if Max pulls this off, what's the biggest bottle of this year? Is it car number 7 in IMSA bottling their, string of wins to start the season? Is it Oscar bottling he's lost 64 points in the last 5 races or 4 races?
Yeah.
Max has scored as many points in the last 5 races as Oscar and Lando have combined. That is an otherworldly level bottle. And then I also said, if car number 6 manages to win in WEC, is Ferrari's bottle the worst? PPM, you can start listening again. I don't know how we're going to know. I'll hold up the Porsche flag. They'll know they can start listening again. There you go. PPM, you can start listening again.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, this is the flag that we got given from the team when
the one I showed last week. That's next.
Did their fantastic winning of the IMSA titles. But,
Man,
I don't know what is going to be the worst bottle. You'd think maybe Ferrari in WEC, just because they have a bunch of cars going against essentially one car. No offense to car number 5, but they haven't really been much of anywhere except in Brazil, where they were on the podium.
Yes. Yes, very important. Podium's very important. Okay.
And I think we all know that I really like Michael and Julian, but they have not really been where Kevin and Larry have been this season.
No,
so
which is why I hold on to that one podium.
Yeah. But
actually, I wonder where this puts me, because in IMSA I was cheering for the 7. I am a fan of Oscar Piastri, and I am obviously a Ferrari boy in WEC.
I was gonna say.
So
that was my thought process when Nick sent this in the group chat, was this is Aries targeted heavily.
It is super Aries targeted, and I didn't mean it to be.
There is a target, not Chip Ganassi Racing, painted on my back, and I can feel the arrows being aimed.
There's my red car hat. I can't find my red car hat, it's too far away.
Is it the arrows from Aero McLaren? I
have a red hat because my dad brought me my Michael Schumacher hat from 2002, which is signed, but is obviously very heavily worn.
Yes.
But yeah, my dad, it's been at his house, but signature's still pretty good.
There it is. It wasn't showing previously.
But there we go. I have that red hat, but yeah, so just, I guess, to a point about Max and how he'll be perceived, this hat has Michael Schumacher as a 4-time world champion. So, I will say, only 3 people in the history of Formula 1 have 5 world championships. Juan Manuel Fanfic. Our certain listeners will get that. Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. Those 3 are the only 3 that have ever done that. So if Max join, whether it's this year or next year or in 2 years, whenever, like when Max Verstappen was a kid, the greatest Formula One champion of all time had 5 world championships. During his lifetime came the 2 7-time champions. So, I think 5 is still that number that puts you as potentially one of the greatest of all time. I don't know that I think that Max needs to get 7, especially if Max goes on to have a successful sports car career. So if, like people are guessing, in 2028, after 1 year of Ford's existence, he goes over to the Ford WEC team, which is currently what I think I see a lot of people saying, and he wins a WEC title or he wins Le Mans, I think there is no question at that point that he is overall one of the greatest to ever drive a car.
Yeah. Easily.
So even if he stays at 4 Formula One titles, because, it's one of the reasons that I, aside from being a Fernando fan and having been a Fernando fan forever, it's one of the reasons that I argue that Fernando is undervalued in these GOAT competitions, because he's a 2-time Le Mans winner. He's a WEC champion, and he's a 2-time Formula One champion. He's done the Indy 500. He is, as far as well-rounded drivers go, there is nobody on his level, honestly. There is nobody on Fernando Alonso's level when you look at a truly well-rounded driver. He can race on ovals, he can do endurance racing, he can do Formula One. I think Max has that capability. It's, does Max have that desire? He obviously has the desire to do sports car racing.
Yes.
He is doing sports car racing. But does he have the desire to ever do ovals? Because I still think that that's what sets Fernando apart. It is a completely different style of racing. Putting an open wheel guy into a tin top, it's still a road course. It's still a permanent circuit. It's the same turn left, turn right, hit the apex style of racing, just in a different car. If you're a driver at that level, you should be able to adapt to a different car. But oval racing is a completely different discipline. It's like asking a hurdler to go do high jump. They're both track and field events, but they are so vastly different that the skills you need for oval racing are very different than the ones you need for racing road courses. So I do think that Fernando is undervalued for that reason. And I think Max has the ability to get in that conversation, at least in my mind. There's no denying Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher are the best to ever drive in Formula One. Period, hands down. That does not make them the 2 best to ever drive a race car. I don't need to finish the statement. If you put them in a 911, we all know how that ends.
Yes, we do.
And I'm not wrong. I am not wrong. Kevin is the best driver in a 911, period. And yes, currently I would say Max Verstappen is the best driver in a Formula One car. Alex Palou is the best driver in an Indy car. Current form. We're talking current form. It's undeniable. I do also think Kevin is current form the best hypercar driver. And that's not Kevin bias. That is, go watch his first stint at Le Mans and tell me that is not the best hypercar driver in the field.
How'd I know we were getting to that?
I was gonna say.
And then if you want to talk overall sports car racing, Kevin does not hold a freaking candle to Nick Tandy. Sorry, Kevin, but you don't. You really, if you're talking overall sports car racing, Nick Tandy is far and away the best. Larry has one to go. Earl has one to go. But You don't just like get to show up and say, I'd like to win Le Mans today. I'd like to win Daytona today. Like,
No, that's
if that
definitely
was
how
the
that
case,
works.
if that was the case, Larry would have won Le Mans this year. Earl would have been the first Mr. 24 Hours because he would have won Daytona this year. The best driver in the world is something that you really do need to break down into categories if you take the idea that Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport out of the equation, because it's not.
Mic drop. Yeah.
Now we get to go into sports cars.
Yes,
which
we
is what
do get
people
to
are
go
here
into
for.
sports cars. Sports cars, despite, petite being a happy thing, because, my two guys were champions, they have been kind of depressing me recently, because of all the rumors going around. But ELMS came through to make me happy about sports cars again, because literally, yeah, you can hold them up. It's still depressing,
there
okay?
they are.
Stop reminding me about the future divorce, most likely. But ELMS gave me
Hold up
basically
different versions of them.
just I'm putting my hand over you. They gave me
Okay, I
all
can
my
hold up
cars as
Michael.
champions. So, Chrome Vet, which if you don't know what it is, it's the Corvette and it's chrome, so we call it the Chrome Vet. It's a champion, the first Corvette to be a champion in the series, which is pretty awesome. But I think also one of the really cool things, and the team pointed this out and the series pointed this out, so I thought we should point it out too, because this is a cool achievement. They are an American manufacturer, a British team with a European driver, an African driver, and an Asian driver. So the amount of continents you had represented by this championship win for this car is insane. I just thought, when they, pointed that out, I was like, that's just insane. And I feel like more people need to point that out, because, it's not every day that you get something like that with a car. So.
Right.
And then the other one, which I think most of us are all pretty excited about, Spike is a champion again in a different series, so that means double Le Mans entries!
They've
Yeah,
been
so
winning everything.
I think that this entry is the one that will end up being the Rexy entry, because the IMSA one is specifically PJ, because it is the bronze driver LMP2 entry. The guaranteed entry from IMSA, because he won that. Like, him as the bronze driver. It's not, yes, AO gets it, but it is him as the bronze driver winning that. When you look at the list, it's literally PJ Hyatt / AO Racing.
Yeah.
So I believe that because AO have sort of hinted at the fact that they're trying to get the ACO to allow them to split these entries across two cars, because it is the same car that won in both. Like, it is PJ's car that won both. It's not like they ran two. This technically AO by TF, but it is the same bronze driver that won with the same car in both. And it would be very cool, and it would be smart of the ACO to allow them to run Rexy.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I mean, I guess they'll have. Nobody's doing. They could literally put anybody in that car. Like, they don't need to use Rexy's IMSA lineup. They could put anybody they want. Any bronze, any silver, and any gold / platinum. So that would be wild to see who they come up with for the lineup,
Yeah. I will say, one of the, funny things people were pointing about.
Give me Kevin in Rexy at Le Mans.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Here we go.
Yeah. Also, I think it's worth pointing out, we pointed out that PJ like got double, but Dane did too. So let's give Dane
Yes.
credit as well. You know, good for him. He got both championships
Yeah, but
as well.
that's Dane. Dane should be getting double.
Yes,
Dane
but I'm saying
is
gotta
is
give
a
him credit.
like absolute world-class professional driver.
Yes.
PJ Hyatt is a 40-something-year-old bronze driver that does this as a hobby. Like, by necessity of being a bronze driver, he has a full-time job. It is wild. Say the same thing I say about Ben Keating.
Yes.
It is wild the level that these two guys at grown-up age, because obviously there are some like baby bronzes, but at grown-up age are doing as bronze drivers. The like absolute different level they're on is insanity to me.
Yeah. I just had to point out Dane because I like Dane. I do
Yeah,
also
no, I like Dane too.
Yeah.
But
the other funny thing that was pointed out about this was so if you don't know, Chrome Vet and Spike are both TF like entries,
Yeah.
so they are technically teammates. And everyone was pointing out about how like AO and the Chrome Vet were like congratulating each other on social media, and everyone was like, this is the opposite of Spike, or specifically like AO and Corvettes and IMSA. You wouldn't see that over there. So that was
Yeah.
like a point out, was like they're allowed to get along with Corvettes, but only in ELMS, not in IMSA, which I think is hilarious. And then my specific one, Charles Lacey, got the LMP2 championship. So that was cool because Spike was the like pro-am championship. But this is not even a month apart of his like first WEC win with Alpine to his, team getting their first championship with this series as well. So pretty cool. And overall, just that entire lineup of that car. It's crazy what they were able to do.
Yeah, and still going on about one of Charles's teammates, Esteban Masson. Well, he's going to be driving obviously he's going to be driving the title-winning hypercar in WEC. Whether that's a Ferrari or a Porsche remains to be seen. But obviously he's a Toyota driver, so there's been some rumor about him potentially being able to step up to that level next year. Some are saying it's too early. I don't know. Given what we've seen this year, I'm not sure Toyota can afford to sleep on him, because with the level of performance he's shown all season,
unless Toyota's
someone
holding
else
two
could-
seats for the future and don't have any intention of moving up any juniors until they make other driver change moves, conspiracy theory hat on. There are 6 drivers that are world-class drivers right now. 8 if you count the 2 that don't also do WEC. So there are 8 world-class drivers that are absolutely free agents right now. And the idea that Toyota won't pick up at least 1, if not 2, if not 3 of them is honestly laughable. I think that they can wait 2-3 years on Masson. Just let him marinate in various series,
marinate.
I don't
Yeah.
like the word marinate, but I will say, Toyota, just don't forget about him, because like you have a
No,
good
I don't think
junior
they
there.
will. They are
definitely do.
very aware of who they have, and that's the
Yes.
other thing, is they have a whole bunch of guys in the Lexus program right now that also would be as good of a fit for this seat as anybody other than the PPM guys. Because I do think that if you have Kevin Estra, Lawrence Vantor, Julian Andlauer saying, hi, I would like to drive for your team, you take them over anybody in a lower class. You just do.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
So
no brainer.
if any of this stack of guys wants to go to Toyota, I think that Toyota takes them over any of their juniors, over any of their current factory guys that are not in hypercar. And I think that that's just common sense.
Yeah, you're just taking from another team that's the same color scheme as you. So, you know, it's fine. It's fine. It works. Um, Another race that happened was the Indy 8 hours. I will say it wasn't really 8 hours because you had 2.5 hours of it being red flagged and then an hour and a half of it under safety car after the red flag. So before all of that, it was exciting. But yeah, that
You
was
loved who got pole after the penalty was applied.
I think everyone in the group chat, when that got announced, very much so knows that I was not happy about that.
Yes. I do need to shout out my raccoons because they won like every title there was to win. Random Vandals Racing won like a billion
Everything.
titles this weekend. As we know, I don't generally like BMW, but I really like my raccoons because they're fun.
Yes.
So
I will say,
good job, raccoons.
my favorite thing is they brought Gizmo, which if you don't know who Gizmo is, it is their raccoon mascot, onto like their like trophy ceremonies. They brought him with them, and he had a bow tie on. So they did dress up the raccoon with the bow
Yes.
tie, and I thought that was amazing. So great job there. But Loke Hartog, once again, I feel like we talk about him like for every race, it feels like. But the broadcast talked about Kenton and how Kenton was doing the double. Loke was also doing the double, so I felt like we needed to mention that, which his
Yes.
teammates apparently did remember that he was doing the double because they got a whole photo together of like all of his teammates for the weekend, and it really just gave the vibes of like a proud dad photo, but they didn't include Loke in the photo.
It was funny. Yeah, it was like all of Loke's grown-ups and no Loke.
Yeah, like they forgot about Loke. It was just like, okay. But yes, he did do the double because he did GT4 as well. And they
Yes.
got a podium, so that's great. Congrats to them. But I think a car a lot of people were following for this race was what was affectionately just called Australia car. It was Will Power's car. Their race suits were literally the Australian flag. Matt Campbell, I'm very sorry, but I did tweet that I wanted to see you in these race suits, and a good chunk of Twitter agreed with me. So, yeah, you're gonna have to find a way to be in this silly, very Australian race suit. Because apparently Twitter really wants that.
Tell him to ring Kenny Habul for next year.
I mean,
Yeah.
might need some options, which, speaking of options,
Yeah, your Matt Campbell conspiracy theories.
it's I've titled it
time.
More Silly Theories to Cope,
And I'm titling it Matt Campbell conspiracy theories.
because none of these are realistic, but I need to cope by making silly theories. Hence why it's Silly Theories to Cope.
Bring Matt
Once again,
to
just
participate.
gonna cover your screen. The first one, I guess we kind of have to start with some news. If you didn't hear the announcement, McLaren Trophy America will be joining F1 for Miami next year. So,
We'll see how long my arm can handle holding Matt up on the screen.
yeah, I'm just gonna keep laughing because I'm trying to cover you on the screen and it's not really working. So I've determined silliness. You obviously have Matt do the double for that weekend, where he does McLaren Trophy America, and then somehow also is in the F1 car. I've determined you just do an Uzi swap, so for some reason Oscar's not in the car. Maybe it's a free practice session, I don't know. But you're doing an Uzi swap, and Matt somehow is ending up in an F1 car. There's
Matt is
number
confused
one.
by this.
He's always confused.
That's true. He is not as confused as Nick Tandy, but he is always confused.
I'm saying he's very much always confused. And then the next one, we're moving over to IndyCar, okay? I'm really trying to, like, cover you, and it's not working. For IndyCar, we're specifically focusing on an team that I like, but mainly because they put out the most awkward statement. Because Enzo Fittipaldi was just testing with them at Sebring, and for some reason they felt like they had to put out a statement around this, that their lineups are, like, set for next year. But it gave very much so the vibe of, like, the lineups are not set for next year.
I don't know, if
Yeah.
Enzo Fittipaldi ends up bringing Nolan Siegel money, I think Nolan Siegel's out of that seat.
Exactly, but I'm saying it very much so gave the vibe of, like, the seats
Yes.
are not actually secured despite what this statement's
Mhm.
trying to say.
Like we said, it's Errol McLaren, for crying out loud.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Now, I will say, I like the first part of your idea here. The second part's just silly, but
Yes.
the first part is actually realistic.
Okay, so theory number one off of this silliness that they've caused by their silly statement is Nolan Siegel's going to sports cars, okay? He's done sports cars before, so it's not really that out
He's
there.
a Le Mans class winner.
Exactly. So I'm
Yeah.
sending Nolan to sports cars. Matt is, I guess, in this one, going to the 6, which, you know, he's done some good stuff in a car that's the number 6. I mean, he's kind of a reigning champion in a car that's the number 6. So, yeah. Or you have my other silly theory, which is Christian goes to the 6. Matt goes to the 7, which, you know, he's also done some pretty good things in a car that's numbered 7. But this is mainly off of the fact that for, like, half of McLaren's endurance photos, they've used the number 7, and I was like, guys, this is actually
Which
a
is
hint
not
at
an
this.
eligible number for them to take.
Which isn't. So it's like, it's
Like, unless
actually
Toyota is also leaving.
Yes, so it's actually just a hint that they're taking a PPM driver and sticking him in the 7 in IndyCar. You can take my silly theories, there you go. The second one was for silly giggles, again, of just Arrow McLaren has said we're getting an extra car for the 500. Matt, I don't think you want to do the 500. I don't even think you probably want to even do IndyCar. But I'm sticking you in the extra car for the 500 because that's another.
I will say, I know who the two guys that are actually in the bidding war for that car are. I'm not sharing them because I don't think that it was shared to me with the intention of being broadcast, but I do know that there are 2 drivers in a bidding war for that car, and that it is in the several $1 million range, and that they are both world-class drivers.
Yes.
So
I'm just
it
saying,
will be. None of them are Kevin
ha-has.
Estra. So just because I know people will assume that that's what I'm hinting at, neither of these 2 are Kevin Estra. So
yes,
the 2 names that I were given were not Kevin.
Once again,
They are names that our
wild it
listeners
would
would
be.
know. And they are world-class drivers.
Yeah. I'm saying once again, your clarification is that all this is for silly haha jokes. None of this is realistic or to be taken seriously. It's for me to cope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I can put Matt down because we are done with the Matt segment.
Yes. You can hold up
Onward
another
to the next
one, though.
segment.
Yes, our next segment. We're in like an awkward recording thing where it's Monday and the episode's coming out on Wednesday, so we won't record in time for an episode around his birthday next. So Jam's birthday is going to be between our episodes, so happy birthday to Jam.
Next week, we record again on a Monday and release on a Wednesday, and guess whose birthday's on the Tuesday?
Kevin!
Right. Because Jim and Kevin's birthdays are like only a couple days apart.
Yes.
And several years.
Yeah. They are not
But-
actually like that close, but
No, they are not that close. But yes, happy almost birthday, Jam.
yes,
Almost.
It is. It's his
I mean,
almost birthday.
it's his almost
says-
birthday.
Yeah.
10/24/1994.
Yeah.
It says it right there.
You know, we wished his teammate birthday earlier in the year because we actually recorded around
That's
Matt's
interesting.
birthday.
Hold on, time out. Fun
What?
game.
Okay.
So the IMSA cards have
Are they American?
our
layout?
style of
yeah,
dates because Kevin says 28/10/1988.
Yes.
So like his birthday is October 28th, but that is funny. Yeah, so like we've got a jam with where's jam?
I was gonna say,
Jam's
are they
other card?
American
Here it is.
layout?
Yeah, we have a jam with 24/10, and then we have a jam with 10/24. So
Yeah.
that's pretty nifty.
They
that
don't think
is
our brains can
PPM.
understand that.
That is a really, really cool differentiation between the WEC and IMSA cards. Because like I guess Matt's would be the only one. No, I have a Kevin card somewhere, but like Matt's are the only ones that I have easily available that are the WEC and IMSA one where it's the same front but a completely different back. That are from recent because my Kevin one from Daytona is in my card box, but these are my COTA and Petite cards. That's cool. PPM, I love that. I don't know how I just discovered that, but
Yeah.
PPM, I love that.
We haven't been
Thank
looking
you for the
closely
attention
enough.
to detail. R.I.P. the difference.
Why'd you have to remind me? I was just doing my coping segment. Now I'm gonna have to need a new coping segment.
It's fun to end your coping segment with the reminder that the WEC program's going away.
No, it's
As
not.
I sit here with literally 3 different sizes of last year's WEC car with me. So, yeah, I'm not doing so well either.
3 different sizes of 6.
I suppose we shall wrap up.
I didn't like that.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Orange Flag Pod. On Twitter, Nicole is at Nicole on Racing, Austin is at Hendrik Laren, and Aries is at Aries_Alpenglobe. Stay orange.